Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World Collective Energy Share. So, where should we start today? Would you say you just pulled the card on healing the divine masculine?
I did. I did. Yeah, I don't know. I've been very intolerant of the traditional behavior that's been labeled masculine, the overbearing, short-sighted energy. And just, I don't know. I don't want to say bully because that's not really right. I don't know. Just, it's like,
uh,
it's exhausting.
aggressive? Aggressive?
Yeah, yeah, oppressive. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. I think that's what I'm feeling. Hey, Laurel.
Yeah. Hmm. You'll just have to read comments because I'm not seeing them on my phone weirdly enough for who's on. So, all you on that today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's all like, I don't know. There's just been little, it's this being tired of the things being the way they've been. Right. Oh, we got already.
Well, tired of the inauthenticity from people. It's like, go away then. If that's the best you got.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about that. My husband and I were talking about that yesterday. I was like, and it's funny we're talking about the authenticity thing because how did that come up? We were talking about, somehow we were talking about, it's a book that I've been listening to on, yeah, an Audible book that I've been listening to while I paint the different rooms in this house. And it's a very different book from the one I kind of usually read, but it was like on the Jimmy Fallon summer reading list, like their summer book club thing. And I was like, oh, I'll try it out just for a break. But the story evolves around like like two families in the 80s up in New York City area, which, of course I totally identify with because that's when, like I graduated high school in the 80s and whatever.
Right.
So So the whole thing was, one of them in one of the families. So there were two of the kids that were very close, boy and a girl, and the boy's mother was schizophrenic, right, for a long time, undiagnosed because back then nobody talked about the things. If you remember, like the whole like, what goes on in the family stays in the family. Like, keep
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's no matter how close you are with other people, there are certain things you just don't talk about, and stuff like that. And so it's funny is listening to this whole story and the way, and it's an interesting story, but it really reminded me of, oh yeah, like really, I remember that. And that's why so many of us in mid adulthood now who were kids around that time, 70s and 80s, we were so, like, it was like, suck it up and you don't talk about these things, right? So you hold
Right.
it all up, right? So it is related to that whole divine masculine thing because it's being stoic and it's being strong and, and you don't share stuff with other people that would make you look less than in any
Oh,
way,
right. Right.
right? So
Right.
therefore, you us going around being inauthentic like 90% of the time, right? And I said, and I was talking about that to with my husband in the car going someplace, and I said, yeah. He said, God, it just reminds me how things have changed. It's like gone to the other extreme of like everybody's out there and everything, And I'm like, but the funny thing is, it's still not authentic. Like
Right.
it's like it's so funny.
It's just a new version of it. And it's like a movie, every time you add a number to it, they get worse. So this
Yeah,
version's worse.
yeah. I know. I'm like, now there's social media and everybody puts everything out there and everybody's just as authentic as before. Because
Well,
now it's like,
and it still doesn't get dealt with.
right. And I know because we were talking about, I'm like, yeah, because back then, because everybody kept things so close, everybody would just sort of have the whispers, right? All the neighbors or like, the community. Well, what do you think is going on here? And oh, well, she's always been strange, or da, 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 there's something wrong, or now it's like, oh my God, like so and so, they're going for therapy for that, like because we have almost this overindulgence stuff, and it's like, where do we find that, that middle
Right.
ground, but still like stay authentic? And we actually did. Scott, I got into a really a good conversation about that. Like, well, I was like, I have nothing to hide, but I also don't feel like I need to share every little detail of my life with everybody either.
Well, I've gotten to a place where I really think about what I spend my mental energy on, and it's like if it's not anything I want to further, then I don't talk about it because otherwise you're just giving it more energy and giving it more life, and it's like if it's something I don't want, let's just be done with it. Let's just be done with it. And I get frustrated when I'm in situations where I feel I have no choice but to participate in that. And I just get really agitated and angry, and I feel so inauthentic and misunderstood. And it's like that just makes me crazy.
Yeah.
And I had three dreams kind of back to back. One night it was, I guess, Saturday night, and it was like I had everything planned and everything was all set out. And it was like nobody could understand me, even though we were all speaking the same language. And I just got so frustrated. And it was like one thing was holding us up, but I couldn't communicate. And I was just like, nothing happened because they didn't understand this one small thing. It's like, I just need to unlock this door. And it was so frustrating because it was like I was speaking a different language, even though we were talking the same.
Right.
And I was like, I'm so sick of being misunderstood, or not even misunderstood, just not understood, which I think is different. It's not, it's like people just don't even know how to interpret it.
Well, we're not used to authenticity. We're not used to like authenticity either, right? So, what was it I was talking to recently? Can't remember. There was somebody I was talking to about this kind of stuff recently. Somebody who was new to the concept, and
Was
I
it at
said,
the meeting?
"What?
Was it at the talk you gave?
Oh, yes, I think it was. Yes, it was. Thank you. The talk I gave last week. That was it." And so I was talking about how when we come from a place from authenticity, when we find that place of self love, right, and acceptance, then we can come from a place of authenticity. And when we come from a place of authenticity, then we don't give excuses anymore. We just are who we are.
And and we don't have to accept what other people are trying to impose on us, because
Yes.
that just makes me insane.
Right. And because I said, I was like, people who really know me pretty much know that if I do something or I don't do something, it's because I'm just sort of guided to do it. And even if it doesn't make logical sense or it is not what is expected by the standard, cultural whatever, but it's just what I do, they know that I'm doing it because it's authentic to me and it's what my
Right.
guide is telling me to do. And there's not an ulterior motive and they don't second guess what I'm doing. I'm like, and that takes a long time though for people. Like, and then people who don't understand that kind of authenticity have a hard time with it because then they still are in their minds thinking, because they're not there. So then they're thinking, well, what's your ulterior motive? And, really you're trying to do this, and, or maybe you're being passive aggressive or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no.
And then they try to put you through, defending and all these things that are just such a waste of time.
Yeah. So, um, and that goes for what you and I talked about Friday, right? Friday morning, I think.
Yeah,
But we were talking about, oh, I don't know, I've been yawning so much today. But this is obviously a big topic.
I know. I know.
We were talking about, oh, so like, there's a lot of stuff because every time we have, oh, see, I now I got a Laurel comment. Oh my gosh, I can completely relate to the not being understood and in the most basic ways, which is asking the Comcast guy a yes or no question, and he says something not really related. I've worked on making sure I'm very precise and clear, and it's still if I'm speaking completely different language.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, so we were talking about on Friday. We were talking about like the every time we have a mass like a big mass event, right? Like so, the other week it was the hurricane, right, in the
Right.
Bahamas,
Right.
and it's like the shootings. There's earthquakes. There's volcanoes. I mean, there's stuff everywhere, right?
Right.
Every time something like that hits the news, of course, the news is they sensationalize, and I'm not saying that they're not stating the truth, but of course, everything's got to be, this huge thing and sensationalized and everything else, and it's really that drive to invoke pity, right?
Well,
And
it's even if it's not even pity, it's a form of manipulation.
right,
I'm going to put this out there so that I can manipulate your emotions
right,
and your
and
behavior.
but it does evoke this. So like it goes into this pity thing because it was going back to a conversation that I had and conversations that I've had. Multiple people have asked me, well, what do you think about the Bahamas? And I'm just like, what is there to think about the Bahamas?
Right.
like, and
Right.
and so like by the standard, like requirement at the cultural level, it's like, well, how cold are you? And we talked about that before, but it's like somebody tells me, oh, well, I'm guided to do all this healing, at the collective level for the Bahamas, and I'm just like, well, guidance is really, and it's like what you and I have been talking about too, is that focusing on the balance, the alignment and balance, and allowing everything to shake out so that it's all balanced and harmonized in assimilation and wholeness again, and that
Right.
might not be pretty to the ego, whatever,
Right.
because it's away stuff that doesn't serve us. It's shifting things. I mean, so as much as we have that going on in our day-to-day lives, it goes on at the collective level, which we've talked about, which then shakes out like and hurricanes and floods and all kinds of stuff, right?
Volcanoes. Right.
So I keep my eyes on the big. So as we've talked about, and I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I was keeping eyes on the bigger picture of letting that shake out. But it's funny how righteous so many can get about, oh well, this is like and then they get all embroiled in, well, the president is blowing these people away, and there's this and that, and I'm just like, I see that. Well, it's not that it's not, it's not an unfortunate thing, but also it shakes itself out. One person says no, another person says yes, because the universal support. And so when we focus on the shaking out without judgment, and the thing is, what came to me on Friday that we were talking about is that how our judgment of a specific situation and our myopia on an individual piece of the bigger picture all the time tends to like it's holding us back because that is
Right.
when we judge that you need to give compassion about something or be compassionate about something, that's still a judgment because behind that is the energy of pity, which is the energy of I have it better or they have it worse or there's a better or worse or a good or bad, and it still keeps us in duality. But we miss that because we still think, oh well, compassion is a good thing, makes you a good person, makes you a God-loving person or whatever.
Right. Right.
But if we stay at a place of love and wholeness and support and hold that space, then we can trust it's going to come together. And if we're guided to help them, we help. And if we're not guided to, we don't. But we are guided to hold space as part of the whole, just to honor whatever that is, to say,
Right.
okay, so whatever that is that needed to shake out, it's shaking out. So let me hold the space so that it can resolve itself quickly and with the most flow and ease as possible, right? But when we
Right.
come back to authenticity about that, right, there's the expectations of what the culture says you have to do and what people say you have to do, and what makes you a good person or a bad person, and what, how you're supposed to act and put all this energy to, and it's like, okay, but at some point, it was funny that, like now we have so many causes to donate to, right?
Oh, I know. I know. Yep.
So which ones do you choose, right? If you try to do it by ego of, oh, well, I'm a good person, well, you're never going to have any money because you're going to be giving it to everybody all the time and never have anything for yourself, right? And
Right.
when you, or whatever, and when you sit there and say, okay, what if I go by guidance? Well, the guidance will tell you, well, this one's worthwhile, or this person's worth, like, or not even worthwhile. Do this for whatever purpose, for the bigger picture. We're
Right.
so accustomed to that authenticity, so unaccustomed to that authenticity.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and dealing with, and it's one thing to have authenticity in your thoughts, um, thoughts, word, and deed, but then to have to interact with somebody else and to then have an authentic relationship and have an authentic conversation. I mean, that's a whole different world. I mean, we're just so far from that, in my opinion.
Right. Right. Well, going back to, I was talking to, during that presentation last week, I was talking to someone about, I was telling them about working with couples, right? I don't even know how we got into the subject. And I'm like, and if couples come to me and need to want to work on the relationship in the scopes of how I do it, I always tell them, excuse me, I won't see you together. I'll see you separately, because every relationship is made up of two individuals. And
Oh,
no matter how much we love somebody culturally and how we are and the way we expect in relationships, 99% of the time, you're never going to be 100% honest in front of the other person.
right.
Like feelings about, your perceptions, because of things you're afraid of, like how they're going to feel, if you're going to hurt their feelings, or you don't want them to think of you as a certain kind of person or whatever. But that's what you're talking about, is like, we don't even know how to be in an authentic relationship of, well, okay, this is who I am.
Right. That's
I'm
what I
like,
feel exhausting is striving to be authentic in everything that I do and everything I put forward, but then having to be inauthentic in relationships, whether it's, going to the grocery store, whether it's, returning something at a store or traveling, it's like, it's it's so bipolar.
it is, and every time we say we are, but that, I think it's still, you get to a place, there's that little thing, right? That little whatever. I
Well,
I've
and
been looking.
anytime we give in to like, oh, I think I'm getting sick, that's being inauthentic. It's like, oh, something's out of alignment.
Yes.
It's just it's such a different way. And how many times have we talked about authenticity on this?
Yeah, but yet this is like another level of it entirely. One of
Well,
the,
it's almost like it's a new demand of ourselves to be in that place of authenticity
well, and
because
to
it's
be,
not working for people.
no, it's not. And that's why so many are like breaking up in relationships and are by themselves for a while and all that kind of stuff. And it, we don't even, like, there are so many levels of it. Like, it's really challenging for us to see because we're so blind to those inauthenticities, right? So,
Right.
like, what I've been looking at is, so my husband's coming to our Glastonbury retreat in a couple weeks, right? And he's never come on a retreat that I've done. And it's funny because I look at and I keep on telling him, well, you just have to be a part of, like, you are a practitioner, so you have to be a part of this. Oh no, I am. And then I was looking at myself going, so like I'm gonna like so the funny thing is, well, where am I still not true? Like, is there any place where I'm still not true to myself in front of him where I'm different, like with others, that it's like gonna have to resolve, right?
Right.
And it's like, wow, like why would that even? And it's really tiny. Like there's a little tiny something, And I was like, okay, well that's okay. It'll just work itself out.
Right.
But it's so small that whatever. But there's a lot of people that couldn't do that,
Oh,
right?
I can easily see that. Yeah.
It's a really challenging thing for, it's like, well, I'm going to be who I am. So, like, okay, you're allowed to come along, but this is, this is, the way it goes.
Like these are the ground rules.
Yeah. But then I'm like, why do I have to put that? Like, so then does that mean I'm not authentic all the time? Like, in my relationship, you know what
Right.
I'm saying? That's what I was
Right.
going to question. Like, huh,
Well,
there's a result there before.
I had a conversation with Kathy the other night, and she said something to me, and I mean, just framed it so well for me from, being, taking on what somebody else accuses you of or calls you or thinks of you. And it's like if somebody called you a chair, you wouldn't hesitate to go, no, I'm not, or just not even acknowledge it because, you're not. You're not a chair. But when somebody says, you're powerless or you're ugly or you're a loser, we accept that. And it should be as if someone's calling you a chair. And I mean, that has really shaken a lot out for me from the perspective of seeing all that others are trying to impose on you, even if it's just commercials on TV. And it's like, it's so yucky. I don't
Oh,
know.
I know. Well, hey, you're talking to somebody who was in marketing for 17 years in corporate marketing, and I know.
Right, right,
And which is why it's really funny is I don't even pay, like, if and when I watch TV, which is less and less these days because I've been so busy anyway, but hardly ever, like, the TV goes on for maybe an hour before I go to bed at night.
right.
If I'm not watching like on Netflix, so I'm watching something like on Sling that has commercials, I'll just like I completely tune out as soon as it goes to commercial. Like I pay no attention to anything
Right,
it's
right,
saying.
right.
I'm like, nope. Like occasionally one will catch my eye that I just think is funny, and but I
Oh,
can
yeah, yeah.
I couldn't
There
tell
are
you
some
what.
things. But
Yeah.
what I've found I've started doing is now when my radar senses that someone's trying to impose something on me, I revert back to that. Oh, they're telling me I'm a chair.
That's a good way to think about it, though. What
I
a great
mean,
observation. Like, oh, look, they're trying to tell me I'm a chair now. Hmm.
yeah. I mean, it really just really it
It's
just
so
frames
ridiculous.
it.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous that it's easy to see, and it helps you to move out of that space of accepting it. Yeah.
Yep, yep. But I
Yeah.
find that like 95% of what comes in is chair talk. And I guess that's what I'm equating with the masculine energy is that it's all trying to manipulate me.
Well, and if you take it to a bigger picture, so let's take it away from the masculine, right?
Right. And I don't necessarily mean that as a male.
Because we judge it that way, like not like if we understand what we're talking about, like many will look for that and then go right into the judging, the masculine energy, whatever.
Right.
It's really beyond that from a bigger picture. It is the energy of duality, of separation,
Separation. Right.
yeah, separation based creation of
Exactly.
getting through need and lack and holes and and separation and the not me and the whatever. And
Right.
so from that, the driver and the motivator comes from you don't have this or you can't do this or you mustn't
Right.
do this. So or you must, because you don't already have it. And that's something that, yeah, that's really embedded in
Well,
our.
and I think that, bringing that all the way back is, when we were talking about the storms and stuff, is that allowing that just to come into alignment. Not that it needs to just die and go away. It just needs to come back into alignment and almost, I think once it's back in alignment, that it can easily become that creation from wholeness.
Right.
So it's not even a question of, overcoming or getting rid of. It's just that alignment, and and it feels, even though it's a subtle tweak, it's a huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And the alignment, that allowing into alignment does include things falling apart, falling away, being
Right,
destroyed, whatever, because it's out of alignment, which is why
right,
when we set our sights in a higher perspective of like being in alignment,
right,
that's what way. And the thing that's really important for us to stop doing is to stop judging that stuff that's shaking away and falling away.
right, right,
It's like what you're talking about in authenticity of like, I just feel like giving my energy to what builds and creates, right?
right,
In a wholesome way, in a whole love-based way. And the stuff that's not, I just am going to allow to shake out, right? So it's not that you're ignoring it, like you acknowledge its presence or its existence, like, okay, so I acknowledge that the hurricane was a big hurricane and went through the Bahamas and
right.
flattened a lot of the islands there. Okay. So what we can do in the best energy of that is hold the space and alignment. Oh, let's see, we got dinged. So the best thing for us to do is to hold a space of love and alignment to allow it to come together in alignment, which includes the resolution for those people who are still around or whatever. It includes all of that coming together and the support and whatever, because there's nothing that you're without when that alignment is.
Right, right. Oh, that feels good. Well, and coming back to that whole communication thing is almost trusting that those that need to hear what you have to say will hear it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know that's hard when it's the Comcast person. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, or your spouse, or your friends, or your clients,
right.
like picture of what we do here in this kind of work, and like, okay, like how many times I know I've said something to somebody, and then like 6 months later they have a big aha moment, and they say back to me what I know I said to them at least a half dozen times a year ago or 6 months ago, or whatever, and it's like
Right.
it doesn't matter because it was there when they needed it, right? So
Yeah,
it
exactly.
aligned, when it aligned for them, that's when it sort of popped up again and was finally like absorbed and realized or remembered. So yeah, yep. It's another way of allowing and letting go too. But like just committing ourselves to that wholeness, and committing ourselves to wholeness is such a different thing than what it sounds like. It's like, oh, okay, I'm whole, whatever. But it's more of the, yeah, if I'm committed to wholeness and I'm committed to holding that space in love and being, there goes back to being the calm in the storm, right? No matter what's going on around me, that's the authenticity, right?
Right.
And not even that, or within me, because we have a lot of stuff shaking out to bring us to a place of balance and to allow us to remember our wholeness.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're letting a lot of stuff, which is very uncomfortable. So it can be sickness, injury, it can be, relationships falling apart, jobs falling apart, moving someplace else. Like everybody's got big shifts going on in their life.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so So the thing is, if we commit ourselves to holding that space, that includes holding it within ourselves to say, okay, so if I have a day where my shoulder hurts and I have no reason for it to hurt, well, or even if I hit it and then it hurts, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to allow this. What a different way of um, of existing to say I'm going to allow this to realign, to just come to alignment with that wholeness because
Right.
I needed to shake something out by doing this, literally. So let's do this, and I'd like to do this in as easy and comfortable, like or as easy and I don't even like saying comfortable. It's almost a judgment too. I found these days, you know,
True. True.
because if you're in acceptance, everything is there's nothing that's uncomfortable. It just is, you know.
Right. Right.
Boy, I'm tingling from all that.
Yeah. I mean, I already feel better than when we started. I already feel more aligned. That is the judgment.
Right. And so that's the whole thing. I think we had to come back and look at this again because we talked about alignment. I think it was last week or was it the week before? I don't know. Sometime in the last several weeks. But it's like this is how to do it for ourselves. Like we can talk a good game, but the thing is to actually live it and walk it. That alignment, that commitment to alignment. And when we do it, this is what it looks like. It looks like, well, things might fall apart. People might
Right.
get pissed. You might get angry. You might get sad. There might be some physical issues. There might be some stuff that's going on around you. There might be something that's falling apart. And you ask, okay, so in my authenticity and the wholeness and balance and harmony, does this fit? Being open to accepting the answer when if it comes back to no, no, that's why it's falling away.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
Well, and if you bring in what we talked about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, last week, I don't remember, the different grounding. So it's grounding in that authenticity, which then takes you into the grounding into the multiverse instead of just the earth, just, just in today, just in the moment kind of
yeah,
thing.
yes, and that's why I think trees have become such a prominent like thing with me. Like it's funny, I notice trees like the energy of trees. I've noticed like I'm attracted to the tree of life symbol a lot more because there's like the above and below into this
Right.
big right. And it's like well because that's really what we're talking about, right? It's that centeredness,
Right.
allowing it all to integrate. I
Yeah.
still I still maintain that trees are like the most evolved consciousness
Oh,
in remembrance on.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree. I agree. And it, I love sitting out in our backyard, and we have so many big trees, and it's like we've decided to plant another because there's a space that's just wanting to be filled, and it's like you can never have too many trees.
No, and that was part of it. Was funny because when we looked at this house, one of the first things I said when I went and stood out on the back deck was, "Oh, the trees," because I was sad of letting go of the trees at my old place, and I was like, "Well, I
Right.
hope I find a place. I would love to find a place that has like the established trees that we had." And it's fabulous.
Right.
Fabulous. And I have to find myself not being judgy about what kind of trees.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Because it's funny, we have this one magnolia tree on the front yard, and I'm just like, never been a magnolia fan because it makes such a mess in the yard. Like, it's not huge, and there are others around it, and I'm just like, okay. Because it's almost like I could feel that, okay, but no, you do, like, okay, yeah, it's accepting all parts of ourselves, right? It's
Well, and the
accepting,
flowers. I mean, I probably have 20 magnolias, and they're the small ones, but the blooms and the smells are just indescribable.
I'll just have to be re educated on them, I guess. I am happy. I am happy to not have sweet gums in my yard, I will say that. Anyway,
I have one sweet gum.
yeah, we had like a handful of them in my old yard. And that was the one, and they're beautiful trees,
Right.
and beautiful shade trees. They're beautiful in the fall when they change color. Oh, they're just incredible. But those balls are balls, is what they are.
Yeah.
But again, it's still part. So it's like, what's the prickly part of yourself, right? Because that's really
Right.
what they present for you.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, it's like be a tree. That's our theme for this week. Be a tree.
That's right. Be a tree.
So the tree, like a river birch doesn't try to be a magnolia or an oak tree. It just is what it is.
Is what it is. Right. Yeah. Be authentic trees.
I think that's our takeaway for this week. But it's also realizing. I think this is just such an important point. Is that realization of how to be, how to actually do the authenticity from this bigger level because we're so unused to doing it, right? We want to engage
Right.
compassion or fear, whatever you want to call it, you know. But that's really what, like I think I've read this a million times. The Webster Dictionary has like under compassion is having pity for somebody's, misgivings, and it's like, well, by that definition, I wouldn't say that's a total. Well, I would say that's a totally dual based, definition, right?
Right. Right.
Whatever happens to us is something we signed up for. So what's the lesson? Let's let that shake out. And you are me, and they're me, and the earth is me. So if I want it all to balance and shake out in wholeness, then I'm going to let that happen
Right. Without judgment.
without judgment, only with love.
Right.
And so that's what it feels like. That's like, we've had that whatever. I feel like this past week, that's been the pervasive energy. It's been allowing, like, let's hold this space. The more we hold space for each other, the more we hold space for ourselves, right? Which means that we're allowing it to shake out. We
Right.
allow our space to
Right.
allow it.
Right. Yes, I agree.
So I think this week it's the ability to remember how to do that, how to do this from a bigger picture for the individual as well as for the collective, so that we can let go of the reins of control. Because in doing that pity thing or compassion thing or however we want to call it, we do try to control something because we're saying, oh, well, oh, I'm going to focus all my energy on the victims of this. Well, what about all the victims of this and this and
Right.
this?
Well, and
Right?
then, the individual victims of, cancer or, all these other catastrophic illnesses out there.
Oh my God, I just can't stop yawning today. Like I said, this must be a really big one for us to do.
Yeah, I
Right?
think it is. I think it is.
And in learning how to do that, and not learning, and remembering how to do that with others and at the collective level, it's really important for us to then take it and turn it inward also, and make sure that we can do that with ourselves.
Right. Yeah. I like this one. This
Yes,
one's good.
it feels really good. All
Yeah.
right, let's go. I'm sorry, let's go and be in that.
That's right. That's right.
Boy,
It was,
there was a lot in there, and I can't remember hardly any of it.
yeah, yeah, it was very busy, very, oh, it's like television busy.
Yeah, because it was like, oh, well, what about this? And I fall into this whole whatever, and then it's like, oh, look, no, this doesn't even exist, so you can just wipe this away now. Like, and it was just, but it felt really deep. Like, I kept on going deeper. So then
Yeah,
I
it's
thought,
like going in rabbit holes.
yeah, yeah. Like, oh, you don't have to do this, and you don't have to do this, and this does, and then I was seeing like, it was almost like, when you go into like a nature center or something, you go watch the movies, and you have like a little animated guy or whatever in the corner, like, well, da da da, like giving you a whole little. That's what I was seeing, but it was like we're immersing ourselves in these little scenarios, and I was like, oh, well, see, in this situation, you can do this, or this situation, this gets wiped out, and it doesn't exist anymore, and it was like, oh, it felt so freeing, so freeing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I write this down so I can remember when I title our thing later.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. See how it plays out this week. That felt just really smooth and silky. And it was almost like putting down a heavy box that you forgot you were carrying, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very timely too. Like we were laying the groundwork for it to just flow.
Yeah.
Feels good.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Keep your eyes open and be observant to all this and see how it plays out in your reality. This is Angela Coulter and
Here's Sieg Evanieni.
signing off on this week's Thunder World.